Good morning, everybody. My name is Kelsey Doom. I am the President and CEO at the Brookings Area Chamber of Commerce, and I'm going to be your host today. So while we can't be in the beautiful Rotunda this morning, I'm just a little bit happy we didn't have to hop on a 3-hour bus ride at the crack of dawn this morning. So I'm enjoying this virtual option. So I want to start the day off by thanking all of those who made this day possible. We have Brookings Economic Development, their Chief Development Officer, Andrew Sloss, and his team. They helped us to compose talking points and line up speakers for today's event. So thank you to the Brookings Economic Development team. South Dakota State University, President Dunn, Dr. Daniel Scholl, and of course, Jameson Lamp, who has been working with Brookings Day at the Capitol for a long time. Thank you so much. Without physically being at the Capitol today, we did want to make sure that our presence was felt. And so Jameson Lamp and I put together some fun gift boxes for all of the legislators, and it included some local made goodies and some things made at SDSU, and Vision Brookings helped us to purchase that. And so we want to do a big shout out to Vision Brookings for the funding to make that happen. And lastly, I want to thank our Public Affairs Committee of the Brookings Area Chamber of Commerce. They are the driving force behind all of our state and local advocacy efforts. We have Cam Jones, chair this year. Andrew Sloss is our vice chair. And we have the largest committee in the Chamber of Commerce at Brookings. I believe there's around 22 or 23 of us. So it's a very active group, and it's really fun to be a part of and to learn from. So today we're going to be hearing from many leaders at the state level. So I urge you to take full advantage. Be sure to use that Q&A tool at the bottom of your Zoom toolbar. That's how we will do Q&A the last 10 minutes-ish of the presentations. And then there are 5-minute breaks built in at the bottom of the hour, but obviously feel free to move around as you see fit in your own space there, because we will be moving things along quickly. So without further ado, I am going to hand this over to Ms. Leanne Pierce, who sits on our Public Affairs Committee. She's a Brookings County Commissioner, and she is an attorney at her law firm there. So Leanne, I'll let you go for it. Oh, Leanne, you got to unmute yourself there.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Thank you. You're going to be saying that unmute thing many times today, Kelsey. As the liaison from the Brookings County Commission to the Chamber Public Affairs Committee, roads and bridges are one of my favorite topics. And 2020 was a big year in Brookings County for roads and bridges, and the South Dakota Department of Transportation was involved in every aspect of that. They've been working on the I-29 interchange project, the 6th Street project, the Highway 14 bypass corridor study, among other things. And I'm looking forward to hearing about these projects and what the future holds for us regarding them. So it is my privilege to introduce our 3 speakers today from the South Dakota Department of Transportation. Joel Junt is the interim secretary for the South Dakota Department of Transportation. He has invested his entire career for the department and strives toward making all South Dakotans' daily lives better. Joel oversees all of the department's operations. Mike Bem is the Director of Planning and Engineering. His team plans, designs, and lets to contract all of the state highway construction contracts in the state of South Dakota. Craig Smith is the Director of Operations. His team performs maintenance, snow removal, and construction oversight on all of the state highways in South Dakota. So when you are traveling safely in our state and enjoying your travels, think of these 3 people who help make that happen for you. Welcome to the 3 of you today.
Thank you, Leanne, and thank you, Kelsey. I'll kind of kick things off here. I am Mike Beam with the Department of Transportation. I'm the Director of Planning and Engineering, and I'd like to kick these presentations off with a quick game to get you engaged. I know the DOT went first because we're your favorite agency. Gosh knows we've been around Brookings for the last number of years, and some of you may be sick of us, but I hope not. But there's been some huge investments in Brookings over the course of the last 10 years and more planned into the future as well. So the game I like to start with is take a look around wherever you're sitting at home or in your office and write down if you can find anything in your office that was not brought by a truck. Again, anything that wasn't brought by a truck. And you've got 8 seconds remaining. 2 seconds. All right, so when we get to the end of the chat, I want to see who came up with something relating to something that wasn't brought by a truck. And since a lot of the folks here are probably SDSU grads, I anticipate a whole lot of things that weren't brought by a truck. My cohorts here, Secretary Johnson and Craig Smith, are not SDSU grads, so I didn't see them writing anything down, so it's not a surprise to me. But knowing you're all SDSU grads, I'd anticipate that we get some great things at the end. And the whole purpose of the game is to really think about how critical transportation and transportation infrastructure is to our daily lives, right? It's not just getting to work in the morning or maybe dropping the kids off at school, but it's so integrated into our daily lives that we really take it for granted. You know, the food that we eat, the clothes that we wear, our furniture that we sit on, everything's really brought by a truck. The commodities that are growing in South Dakota, in and around Brookings, of course, they're trucked from the field. Thankfully, we've got a very integrated transportation network in South Dakota that allows for rail transport, of course, trucking transport, and what we're able to produce in South Dakota and ship across the U.S. and across the world, you know, is unbelievable, really, when we look at how integrated and how well-functioning our transportation system is. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about the projects in and around Brookings, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the next slide here. So you can see this is just an aerial of Brookings, and I want to highlight some of the work that we've been doing over the course of the last several years. And for those of you that live in Brookings and have lived through the reconstructions of the Highway 14 corridor, you know it's been a long process, but we've got a great transportation facility out there.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Can you share the presentation?
It's not up? Okay.
Nope, I think you have to reshare it there.
All right, I will try it again.
If not, I can pull it up real quick too. There you go.
All right. It looked perfect on my screen, Kelsey. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. So we started in 2006 again. That's at 22nd area. And as we continue through the progression of the Highway 14 or 6th Street reconstruction, we kept building and building and reconstructing and rebuilding that corridor. So in 2013, we kind of hit that Western Avenue area. In 2015, the big build up on 14B, getting ready for the rest of the build on Highway 14. Reconstruction, of course, of the interchange that we saw in 2017. And the last project here in 2020, which was at Maine to Madera area. So the reconstruction essentially on Highway 14, for some of you, you're going to be maybe a little sad to hear me say this, but we should be done on Highway 14 for a long time. I anticipate most of you are very happy that we're done reconstructing 6th Street or Highway 14 in Brookings, but you know, it's been a long process. Nothing but great things to say with the communication that we've had with the city staff. For those of you that don't know Jackie Lanning, she's just been a great resource for the department, and I'll talk a little bit more about Jackie's help in the future on some future projects. But really, it's been a great working relationship we've had with the city. The folks that live in and around Brookings are understanding that construction takes time, and just wanted to extend my appreciation and the department's appreciation for the great working relationship that we've had. So for those of you that remember the latest and greatest project that we had, here's a picture of what it looked like before. And this project actually, I think it was closed on May 4th of 2020. That's when we started to work on that project. So this is the before picture. The during, of course, is a lot of work going on in that area. A lot of the access adjacent wasn't off of 6th Street proper, had to come off intersecting roads. You can see that there's just a lot of work that goes into an urban reconstruction. And of course, the end product was open to traffic on August 28th of 2020. Just again, you take a look at the before and the after, and I'll scroll through this one more time, but looking at the after, and for a DOT person, that's a beautiful picture right there for us, looking at a brand new reconstructed urban facility, and the before. So again, very proud of the work that was done and has been done along this corridor, our team for the administration of it, and of course the teams that helped to rebuild it and our contractors. Looks like just a great project overall. I hope you've enjoyed the new facility along 6th Street and are really seeing the fruits of the effort that have gone into that. I am going to transition now into what's coming up in Brookings, because it's always important to know this is where we've been, but where are we heading? So this is just a map, and information like this is called our statewide transportation improvement program. There's an interactive map available on our website, so just go ahead and Google up South Dakota DOT and you'll be able to find the projects that are upcoming. I just highlighted ones that are in relatively close proximity to Brookings proper. The first one you can see, which is labeled as number 1, is the 20th Street Interchange, and I'll get into that in a future slide, but that one is coming up. Number 2, you can see we just got some pavement grinding and some work going on there on number 2. That's that piece just west of Brookings. Number 3, we got a little bit of bridge rehabilitation project going on. You can see where those structures are. We're just looking at doing some preservation work. And the reason I wanted to highlight these projects is really, it goes back to the theory of preservation and proper maintenance, whether it's your vehicle, your teeth, or the transportation facility, right? That proper maintenance and preservation can really extend the service life of your vehicle or of our structures. We've invested a lot of time and effort as a state DOT onto our bridges. I'm happy to say that the vast majority of our structures are lasting around that 75-year time frame. When we compare that to some of our surrounding states or other states within the nation, we're getting a longer service life out of our bridges and our structures than what we've seen. And a lot of that goes back to the preservation work. So trying to maintain those structures. Chip seal that we put on those bridge decks is really trying to keep that steel that's actually in the bridge deck from corroding and blowing up the bridge deck, essentially, not blowing it up, but making cracks and spalling out that concrete. I wanted to hit on that because Leanne also discussed the bridge work that's been going on in and around Brookings, and this is my plug for the Bridge Improvement Grant Program. For those of you that don't know, there is approximately $15 million made available annually for bridges on our local government network. So Brookings County, and I'll get into this again in a little bit, has been very, very successful in obtaining grants for bridge rehabilitation and replacement. So a lot of forethought has been put into that, and Brookings again has put together a plan that's achievable, trying to maintain that critical infrastructure and getting the commodities out of the field and getting the UPS truck driver to your house when you make that Amazon Prime order. So big kudos to the Brookings County on that, and we'll visit about that in a little bit as well. Number 4, that's actually a variable speed limit, and we'll talk about that, and Craig's actually going to visit on variable speed limits here in just a few minutes. But the variable speed limits is a way for us to work with the users of the facility and trying to set a safe speed based upon travel time and what folks are actually driving out there. For those of you that got to enjoy the blizzard that occurred here, I believe it was last week, you can tell if you were using the interstate. My father always used to say that anyone that's driving slower than him was an idiot, and anyone that was driving faster than him was just a maniac, right? Because everybody knows what their own safe speed is out there. I too have driven that corridor and driven a lot throughout the state in winter events, and I can tell you I kind of share his same opinion at times that, why is that person going 85 miles an hour on the interstate in near whiteout conditions? And why is this individual going 15 or 25 miles an hour on a state highway when it's really not that bad out, right? So the variable speed limits is intended to help determine where those speeds are, but it's going to be based upon what the speed that drivers are driving that corridor right now. And again, using that information to help make good decisions and keep people safe. And number 5 is a shoulder widening project that we've got coming up, planning for construction in that 2024 timeframe. So I am going to switch over to Mr. Craig Smith. He's going to visit a little bit about variable speed limits. And Craig, just give me the sign when you want me to go ahead and advance slides.
Sure, go ahead. Thanks, Mike. And again, my name is Craig Smith. I am the Director of Operations. Maybe before I get into that just a little bit, I spent most of my career in the Sioux Falls office as the area engineer and very familiar with the corridor between Sioux Falls and Brookings, and I'll kind of touch on that a little bit as I talk about the variable speed limits, and recognize, as Mike said, you know, a big part of what the DOT does is provide those corridors for freight and make sure that we have a reliable system that can deliver those services to all the communities along I-29, and definitely the Brookings to Sioux Falls corridor is very critical in our system and our users. So a little bit about the variable speed limits. As Mike said, it's really a safety feature, and it's something that a lot of other states, Wyoming in particular, that we learn from, that they're able to use this system to manage traffic, particularly during those winter events when we do see differential speeds, meaning you have, like Mike said, you got a guy going 80 versus the guy that's maybe more comfortable going 40, and maybe the conditions are somewhere in between there on what that speed should be. So what this system will allow us to do is to actually have regulated enforceable speed limit changes during those events, and we'll develop that process, what that will look like. But a sign like the one shown in the picture there will be posted along the area, and we identified two corridors, one between Brookings and south towards the Big Sioux area, and then another one out west near Tilford, and those are based on primarily those winter crashes. And so we're looking at getting this implemented. We're trying to coordinate a little bit with the interchange project that Mike's going to talk about, but looking at sometime between the year 2022 2023 to get these installed. And one of the other things we have done this year in technology is just incredible what you can do, but we're using getting real-time speeds and we essentially can make that available, and we can look at, you know, when those conditions move in, how that speed drops, and when we maybe need to make some decisions. So be looking for that in the upcoming years. And I will say that corridor, like I said, being from Sioux Falls, very familiar coordinating, although I didn't manage the area coming into Brookings. We definitely worked with our Brookings maintenance crews a lot. That has been a very challenging location for us, particularly from the Big Sioux River into Brookings, and experienced a lot of high winter crash rates. And so we've done some other things on that route in there. One of them being a high friction surface treatment that was put down in 2019. And it's essentially just a really coarse or aggressive aggregate on the road that increases that friction between the tires and the road surface to try to reduce those. And we've seen a lot of success across the state, including this location. Since we put that in 2019, we've not had any reported winter related crashes at that. So we're seeing a lot of benefit from that, and I think we'll continue to do that. The other couple things that we've done, and this was done a few years ago, we've increased our maintenance operations. We've overlapped. We've got a shop in Flandreau and one in Brookings. They kind of break up the ward exit. Knowing that Big Sioux River area is a little bit more of a safety, we've overlapped that area to increase the maintenance. And then this current winter year, knowing there's a lot of that commuter traffic likely going between Sioux Falls and the school that are beyond our normal operational hours, which we typically end around 7 o'clock at night with our winter plowing and treating. We are doing some extended hours, a little bit challenging to find staff for that, but our goal is to have a service up until midnight on I-29 from Brookings all the way to Sioux City, again, knowing the critical nature of that corridor. So kind of ties to just the whole safety concerns and features along I-29 south of Brookings. So yeah, go ahead, Mike, on the next slide, what you got. And so this just shows a little bit of the location, and this was a topic at last year's legislative session, and Secretary Junt was very proactive in getting the variable speed limits approved, and it required legislative action. And these are the two locations, like I said, that we're going to implement first, one being from Brookings south to probably that Big Sioux area, river area, and then another one out west near Tilford in between Sturgis. And again, just a safety feature we think is going to be really beneficial, and we're going to somewhat pilot these two locations, look at what the benefit is, what kind of crash reduction are we seeing, and we're expecting significant reductions. But and then once we do that, look for other locations along our interstate corridors for improvements with the variable speed limits. So I think that's kind of what I had to cover, Mike, unless you've got something else to add on that topic.
No, that's perfect. Thanks, Craig. And Craig's team and all of his maintenance and the snow fighter folks that are out there, they do an unbelievable job for the department. I hope you get a chance to see their work in action, although we don't wish to see their work in action all that often because that means major snow events. But hopefully you've enjoyed the fact that during those events, our team they're out there and they're trying to make a safe facility for you and your family to get to where you need to get. One thing I do want to note on this, Craig, this is my fault. The dates that I have in there are incorrect. So just if you're taking notes at home, probably that 2022-23 timeframe for the I-29 Ward to Brookings and 23-24 for the Sturgis to Tilford. And part of that's tying into the interchange, and we'll get into that in here in just a minute. So,
Mike,
again,
maybe just one other item
yeah.
on just winter safety, and it was through the legislative session again last year. There was a bill that now allows the use of blue lights on tow plow trucks as well as tow trucks as well as our snowplow trucks. And so you may see a few trucks out on the road. We've got 25 statewide with those blue lights, and that's targeted on those, particularly those rear end crashes that we see. Our plows kind of going back to that differential speed. We're traveling at 35, maybe 40 tops on while we're treating and plowing. And just trying to reduce those hits. And unfortunately, we've had a couple in the last week, so there's definitely a need there. So if you see those flashing blue lights out there, that's kind of what that is. And again, we're piloting that program and looking to expand that likely going into next winter.
Thanks, Craig. I'm going to transition in the 20th Street interchange. I think that was probably a topic that a lot of folks are interested in here. So I would like to do a couple things. Number one is point you in the direction of the website that's out there. There's a lot more information relating to the 20th Street interchange than I'm going to cover here. But again, I'd like to just point you to that direction. You can see the website out there. You can go ahead and Google search 20th Street interchange too, and that will go ahead and pop up the information on the website. So the lower left-hand corner, that is the aerial, the existing location of where the interchange would be. That's at 20th Street location. You can see the golf course kind of on the lower portion of it. You can see the stock dam or the pond again in the lower kind of right area of that aerial. So this would be looking probably more to the southeast over the interchange. On the far right hand side is the preferred alternative for the interchange itself. So I don't have these photos oriented exactly the same, but you can kind of see where the golf course is and where the pond is and what the preferred alternative is for that interchange. So we'd have what's called kind of a folded diamond on the southbound lane and then a diamond interchange on the northbound lanes. The middle part, of course, is what the road is going to look like for 20th Street looking east. So design is progressing and it's for the most part on schedule. I mentioned earlier I was going to give Jackie Lanning some props, so if she's not on today, please pass the positive words on. She's been great to work with our team in moving this project forward. She's a great individual for the city of Brookings and county, just a proponent of transportation, and just very happy and proud to be able to work with Jackie. She's just done a wonderful job. We're still anticipating starting construction in probably that 2022 timeframe. Then we're working towards finishing plans and plats, so we call them, for the property purchases for land acquisitions. That's probably going to happen sometime here this spring. So we're progressing well. We anticipate to have final plans for construction in the summer or fall of 21, so in this year. For those of you that don't recall, there was a grant received for this project, which helped to obviously bring it into the construction program and progress the project as quickly as it had. Our federal highway partners have also been great to work with, but again, just great coordination and communication on this project as we move forward. You know, it may not seem that complicated, but as we work through the federal requirements of a construction job, there's a lot of steps that need to take place to ensure that we're moving in the right direction and meeting all the federal laws and regulations. The next thing I want to cover is the Highway 14 corridor study. Again, there is a website out there, so you can go ahead and take a look. This information is also on our DOT website, so go ahead and take a look on our DOT website. And I'm just going to highlight a few of the areas for the 14B corridor study. As I talked earlier, the 6th Street reconstruction, the actual piece in town, that's a long-term investment. You know, as we look at a reconstruction of a facility like that, we're looking to get, 40 plus years out of it. So as we look at Highway 14B and the continued growth of the Brookings area, it's important we're looking out that 40, 30, 20 years to see what the needs may be and what do we need to do now to plan for the future. So some of the recommendations and planning timeframes out to year 2040, you can see the near term, 2024 and earlier, is kind of some turn lane work, some work around some intersections and doing some work out near Vulga, the 22nd Avenue reconstruction at 14 by on the 14B route. You can see the costs that are tied to that. As we look further out into the horizon, the 2025 to 30, and I'm not going to go through all these, but looking at some passing lanes, again, west of Vulga as we continue out west, making sure that folks can get from point A to point B safely and efficiently without taking risks. Some work in Vulga itself, and then again, some Western Avenue traffic signal if warranted again. So looking at some signal needs possibly in that 14B corridor. 2030 to 2035, that's where that reconstruction of the Highway 14 bypass may be coming into play. And in theory, it's going to be tied with the interchange, right? So we do the interchange and the 14B reconstruction at that point in time. There's various scenarios out there that could be considered. And again, 2030 to 2040, again, some work in Vulga and maybe some work later, or excuse me, further off to the west for the Highway 14B intersection proper. Right now, it's kind of that interchange configuration, not at grade, so grade separated, looking at some at grade options there as well. So I can tell you that the corridor study itself was very eye-opening to look and see what's planned for the Brookings area in the future. How can we accommodate traffic? How can we accommodate growth? And really, how can we make better lives through better transportation and being as safe as possible? So another way for us to look at it, this again is also included on our website. It just kind of breaks down from an aerial perspective of when things may be coming as we look into the future for the Highway 14 corridor study. And really the impetus behind this study was to really look at those capacity needs we have along the corridor and the Highway 14B and really plan for the future, looking out again that 20 to 30 plus years. What is Brookings going to look like? What are transportation trends going to look like? So this information, again, is available on our website. I would say that if you're really interested in this, we can get you the information. You can get a hold of Kelsey or Leanne, and we can share that with you. Or else you can go ahead and take a look on our website and pull the information that you are the most interested in. I'm going to transition to the next topic, and I hit on it earlier when I mentioned the tremendous success Brookings County has had receiving bridge improvement grants, and it has been tremendous. And here is a picture of the bridges that are in Brookings County. This is just using our ARC map, and these are the number of bridges that we have on the inventory in Brookings County. There's a significant number of them, right? At Brookings, actually, here's the grants that have been received through Brookings. In 2016, Brookings received 5 grants. That was the first year of the bridge improvement grant. 4 of those were for preliminary engineering, and we kind of break these up into 3 different categories. So we have our preliminary engineering, we have our preservation. I hit on that earlier and talked about how important preservation is, and also the replacement and rehabilitation. So the purpose behind the preliminary engineering is to get a good understanding of what is needed at that location if that bridge or that structure needs to be replaced. So it's intended to take a tiered approach, have a better understanding of the constraints at each location and also what the investment needs may be. So in 2016, Brookings received 4 preliminary engineering grants. They also had 1 preservation grant, and all 5 of those have been completed to date. In 2017, Brookings again received 5 grants. 4 were for preservations. All 4 of those are complete to date, and 1 replacement, which is under construction right now. In 2018, 2 replacement bridge improvement grants. One's programmed for a letting here this spring, so in April timeframe, and the other's currently under construction. In 2019, 2 additional grants, 1 for preliminary engineering and 1 for preservation. Those are underway. And in 2020, Brookings received 7 preliminary engineering and 1 replacement grant, so 8 additional grants in 2020. In 2021, They received 3 preliminary engineering grants, and 3 replacement applications have been received. They didn't receive 3 grants for replacements. So Leanne, if you're taking notes, we just want to let you know we have the applications in hand. We will anticipate the commission taking action on those here in the coming months. So very, very busy work for Brookings County, and the number of structures that Brookings County is looking to undertake and do replacements and preservations on. So just want to applaud the County Commission and Brookings County for their work and their focus on the structure needs in Brookings County. Again, it's an interconnected system. So the county system, the township system, all need to work in order for us to enjoy the life that we have today. And especially with the ag production that we have in South Dakota, it's critical that we can get that product from the field to the market. And whether that's at a grain terminal or we're physically hauling that via truck. I think there are also some questions about Bike Pass. So this is kind of a little bit of a back and forth. So I will visit about Bike Pass a little bit, or Transportation Alternatives Program. So there's approximately $2.1 million available through a competitive grant process. It's administered by the Department of Transportation. And that each project can have a maximum of up to $400,000. South Dakota DOT, we may approve larger amounts for phase project, but there is an 18.05% match, local match requirement for each project. And I think where the question came up on this was really with the new 20th Street Interchange project. Is there an opportunity to find a way to connect that Brookings area to Aurora? And as we take a look and look at what purpose the Transportation Alternatives Program has and the funding that's available, that would be a valid use of funds for that particular type of improvement. We do have a kind of a stair-step approach to this. Letters of intent, which is really just an intention of a community to apply for a grant. Those are generally due in July of each year. And the stair-step approach is get through the letter of intent. So the communities and local governments don't spend an inordinate amount of time and effort putting together an application for something that may not be eligible, or there may be some tweaks that could be made to make it more competitive in the grant process. Once the letters of intent are provided to the department and reviewed, communication takes place with the applicant to talk about the particular project. Site visits do occur, and then applications are put together from the applicant, and then consideration is made through our Transportation Alternatives Recommendation Committee, and then that is ultimately provided to our Transportation Commission for their consideration. So again, a stair-step process. It's intended to be iterative and trying to find the best solution as we move into the future. So with that, Leanne and Kelsey, that's the end of our presentation. I haven't seen any Q&A coming in, but I hope we get a whole bunch here because we've got another 15 or 20 minutes available. And I know DOT is first because you love us the best, so I anticipate a whole bunch of questions. So I'll turn the presentation off and wait to hear some questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, gentlemen. This was very informative. I forgot to give a shout out. We have our Leadership Brookings class is at the Ben Franklin downtown with some other members of the community. So hi guys, wish I could be with you today. But I have some questions coming in via text actually. So I have 3 of them, and it looks like there's a couple more coming in on the Q&A. One of these, Leanne, might need to be answered by you. So I might pull you from the attendees into the panelist, Leanne. So quit picking your teeth, and I'll put you up here. So you should be coming on in case we need you for this question. So the first question came in is, why is Brookings County in the Aberdeen division or region when we're 50 miles from both Aberdeen and Sioux Falls?
Craig, I think that's for you.
Sure. Yeah, no, and we've got 4 regions in the state, in the eastern South Dakota, Aberdeen, and Mitchell region being one, and the boundaries need to be somewhere. And we tend to be, each region does have 3 area offices. So for Brookings, the area office is in Watertown with a satellite office in Brookings. So while that's where the main office is out of Aberdeen, certainly the primary contact is through those local offices in Watertown and Brookings, which I know we've got great staff there that can provide that service. And we definitely have some of those questions ourselves. I know we've got other locations in the state that you're quite a ways from another office, but closer to others. And I guess it's where our predecessors decided to make those boundaries. And I will say it's something, I don't know about boundaries. We are initiating what we're calling a route optimization, and a lot of our locations are based on delivering that snowplow services, and how can we efficiently do that? And as a agency, we are reviewing that over the next year, and is there a more efficient way for us to do that, whether that's shop locations, trucks, things like that. So we don't feel that it impacts the services we're able to provide, but can understand maybe some challenges with communication with locals, but hopefully we're getting that through the local offices.
Thank you, Craig. Next question is, how far south from the current roadway is the proposed 20th Street interchange?
I do not have the exact distance for that. I think I can go back and take a look at the aerial. I don't think our offset is more than a couple 100 foot, just off the cuff, Kelsey.
Okay.
Let me pull that up. Maybe we can look at it real quick. I'm so good with Zoom.
It's really fun. I've just been looking forward to all the technology today.
Yeah, so you can see where the offset is. It may be more than a couple hundred.
Share your screen.
Oh, no, that's right. I can see it again. But we can see here, we're probably looking at a couple 100 foot off to the south from where the current section line would be, maybe a little bit more, but we can follow up on that to get more specifics on it.
Okay. And this one, I didn't know if the Department of Transportation would need to answer this, or if Leanne would, but the status of the land acquisition for 20th Street interchange, do we know that?
Yeah, we're in the process right now. This is Mike. So we're in the process right now of working through the plats that we call. Those are the formal documents that are used to go ahead and start doing appraisals and offering an acquisition for those. So those are being worked right now. I'd anticipate that we'd be looking at this spring when offers would be starting to be made to the adjacent landowners if there's a need to go ahead and purchase some property rights from those landowners. So looking approximately this spring. Spring
2021.
Yep.
The question I hear a lot also is impact to the golf course.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the impacts to all properties is part of what's considered under the National Environmental Policy Act of 1969. So for those of you that are Trivial Pursuit people, that is what NEPA stands for. And if there's a bonus question of whether or not it was actually signed in 1969, the answer is no, it wasn't signed in 1970. And in case you're wondering, yes, I am a nerd. I've made that abundantly clear throughout the presentation. But yeah, so all the impacts to adjacent properties, farmland, properties that are considered what's called a 4F, or a resource that's a park, are considered as well. And that's part of the process as we move through that environmental clearance and the environmental consideration. So definitely the impacts or potential impacts to the golf course were considered and are considered. We don't have a sign off yet on the environmental document. We anticipate that coming fairly soon with our preferred alternative. So again, we'll see where that ends up. Our Federal Highway Administration is actually the ones that go ahead and sign off on that finding of no significant impact, or the FONSI. Again, we love acronyms, and that's one of them. So Perfect. Hopefully that helped.
Yes, thank you. Do you expect any changes in the BIG program, the BIG program in 2021? Yeah,
so the BIG program, we always joke around, it's a big deal, and hopefully Leanne gets a grin out of that. But oh, there we go. I had to ask for it, Leanne. But it's a huge deal, right? I mean, for the counties that are out there, this provided up to $15 million a year for local government structures, and it's just a huge deal. So any changes to that program to help reconstruct and preserve our local government structures, we don't anticipate any changes to the BIG program this year. But this is a part that I hope you all love. Congress came through with the Appropriations Act. So those of you that remember all the mad rush at the end of the calendar year, Congress put together an Appropriations Act, and what that means is that Congress actually funds the programs they had planned to fund through a bill. So they put together an Appropriations Act, and Brookings County was successful last time in this additional program, which is a new federal aid local government bridge program. So Leanne, you may recall this, you actually won and got a project last year in this additional program. And we're looking at, and bear with me here, we don't have the final numbers, don't know what it's going to look like. Last year we had around $28 million. Our Transportation Commission said, you know, we should look at where the need is out there. The money came to us based upon number of structures that were in poor condition. So what the department did is we broke down and said, okay, we've got X percent of structures in the local governments that are in poor condition and Y% that are on the state system in poor condition. And our recommendation to our commission was to share proportionally. So last year, the local governments, our local government partners had, I want to say around $24 million of federal aid that meant a total of like $32 million of additional bridge money that came in last year on top of the $15 million bridge improvement grant. So as we look into next year, I'd anticipate a similar program. I can't give you the total numbers on that, but as you're looking at where your needs are in Brookings County, I want you to take that into account as well. There may be, again, additional funding available for those bridges. So what we look with those is probably construction that 23, 24, and 25 timeframe, depending upon complexity. And again, it was an awesome deal. We were very excited to see that come through, and hopefully you share that same sentiment, can share your appreciation with our congressional delegation. They've done a great job looking out for South Dakota and South Dakotans. So it's good news.
Yes, they have. That's awesome.
This is Joel. Could I maybe add to that?
Please do.
So as part of last year's new bridge program, our senators and representatives, as part of the appropriations bill, provided state funds to help with the match. Mike, I think that was about $5.75 million that was needed overall. They provided $4 million. So, you know, one thing that's probably on the discussion, I know it's on the discussion right now, is whether the state's going to chip in any money to help with that local match. The locals were sure required to provide the $1.75 million overall, and that $4 million I think went a long ways for that. So we'll see where that may end up eventually with this new continuation, I should say, of that bridge, those bridges that were in poor condition with the feds.
Wonderful. Thank you, gentlemen. Two more questions here. Are there any specific pieces of legislation that you know of for this session that we should be looking at or tracking?
You know, I can only speak from a Department of Transportation standpoint. So I think as you go throughout the day, you'll hear from other agencies and other interest areas. From the Department of Transportation standpoint, I have not seen much of any legislation really coming through. There's some agency bills that we've seen. The department, for example, has some cleanup work and some changes to our state trunk network that we've got. We've also got one bill right now that would open up a few more ways for us to contract for work for our contractors. One is emergency procurement. So if we have a major flood event, it allows us the same opportunity that's currently afforded to other state agencies for emergency procurement. Go out and get 3 quotes. And then the other one is indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity. Leavenworth County, I'm sure you're familiar with this type of method. An example would be we could do a contract for guardrail repair with a contractor. We don't exactly know where those guardrail are going to get hit throughout the year. So as they get hit, we can write a task order to go ahead and get those repaired. So it'll provide us 2 new contracting methods. But otherwise, from a transportation standpoint, again, the number of bills, there really aren't very many of them right now. So it's kind of slow. And as we get through session, I'm sure there'll be more and more that pop up. And Joel, if I missed any, please let me know.
Yeah, I think the key is probably more on the appropriation side, and you know, there's a lot that is being discussed. Bills haven't been actually, you know, filed yet relative to what all might be requested, as well as what might be appropriated for this next year relative to the funds that are out there. And I know there's a number of discussions right now with the locals and what they might want to having legislators bring and file and all that. So as Mike said, we're early in the session. There's still a lot of time to, provide those bills, and we definitely keep a part of that, as well as tracking where those are at and how they might affect the overall state program, as well as trying to work as best we can with the locals and keying on their system too. Because as Mike stated, we're one state, and we ensure, or want to ensure, that our system is functioning at all different levels. And so whether it's the state or the cities or the towns or townships or counties, we try to work together with that.
We also have our Public Affairs Committee every week, Wednesdays at 4. We participate in a legislative call with our lobbyist, Matt Krogman. And then I get on a call every Friday at noon with state chambers, with the state chamber and chambers across the state. And so for those of you on the committee, we do keep up to date on that as well. So we'll be sure to keep an eye out for anything that we might want to keep a look on. The last question here is, when would the bike path from Brookings to Vulga start?
Yeah, this is Mike again, and bear with me here. I was under the impression there was consideration or request from a Brookings to Aurora bike path, but it could be Brookings to Vulga. It could be, it could be anywhere within or around Brookings. There is no start date on those because, to my knowledge, we don't have any applications for those yet. The first step, I guess, would be to, I love our website. Go check out our website. We have our contact information there for who our Transportation Alternatives Program Coordinator is, TAP. So again, think tap dance. That individual will put you in contact with, hey, here are the deliverables we need. And that's where the letter of intent comes. So a letter of intent would need to come from, the city of Brookings, or maybe city of Brookings and city of Aurora together, or city of Brookings and city of Vulga together. And maybe the county's tied into that too, that there's a request and we'd like to look at a bike path from point A to point B. So a long answer, but bear with me. If it were selected and moved forward, it would likely be added next January or February timeframe. That's just the cycle of inspection and cycle of when projects are selected. And then we look at a 2 to 3 year timeframe by the time that project is awarded to when construction begins. So I'll say right now, you're looking at 3 to 4 years out if it's going to work in the program, if it's selected, and that project moves forward.
Lovely. Well, gentlemen, that is all the questions we have. I want to thank you so much for giving us your time today. I know it's a crazy day at the Capitol and inauguration happening, so we just really appreciate you carving out some time for the Brookings community and SDSU Day. So with that, I am going to go ahead and put up our break screen, which you'll see throughout the day. And we will be back on at 10 a.m. to hear from the Governor's Office of Economic Development. Kyle Peters will be with us. So again, thank you, and we will see you in about 10 minutes.